Good morning, and thank you for joining the second webinar in the Cloud Security and Validation series. During this webinar, we will be debunking some of the myths surrounding the cloud. But before we begin, just a couple housekeeping items. On your screen, you have a few icons along the bottom. One of those icons is labeled Q&A. Please click that icon if you want to ask a question at any time during the presentation. There is also a chat icon. Should you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, please let us know by launching the chat box and typing your issue, and someone on our end will get that addressed for you as quickly as possible. As a thank you for attending today, we have a special discount code for those who want to join us at Master Summit in Salt Lake City. You'll want to hang on until the end to receive your code. Our expert speakers today are Matt Lowe, who is the President of Labs for Master Control, and James Frankham, who is the CEO of GXP-CC Consulting. And now, let me turn the time over to our presenters.
It's good to be here with you today in session 2 of our Cloud Security and Validation webinar series. My name is Matt Lowe. I'm an Executive Vice President here at Master Control, and I'm happy to be joined today by James Frankham, one of our partners. James, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, I'm one of the partners working out of Germany, and we support Master Control in the configuration, full service implementations to make sure that the customers can get the best product working in a GXP environment.
Excellent. It's good to have you here with us.
Thank you.
James is an expert in the area, so he's going to do the majority of the talking today. I enjoy it when I get to do the color commentary, so we'll go ahead and kick it off here and see what we can learn.
Thank you, Matt. So just recapping from our earlier session, what we had. We talked about cloud education, and this is what this series is really about. It's bringing cloud to the compliance environment, really focusing on how can we get digital compliance running, how can we move into the cloud environment, and how can our customers benefit from the values of moving to the cloud. Mm-hmm. And if we look at it, the cloud is really one of the main things that is out there today looking into computing infrastructure. A lot of us are already using cloud every day. There's a lot of technology already utilizing cloud-based technology, and we just want to share this with our customers. Yeah. We want to make sure that everyone can get onto the cloud and use these benefits fully. Yeah.
It seems like it's hard to find somebody that's not using cloud technology.
That's anymore. Absolutely correct. Yeah. Absolutely correct. Looking at this, we're expecting to have half of the entire industries on cloud by 2030. There's a lot of interesting studies out there that really focus on this. The move of the industry, the move of any industry is really going to cloud computing and making sure that you can use all the benefits that are available out there. Life science companies they're not an exception of moving to the cloud. There's actually a lot of great examples where life science companies are moving to the cloud and can benefit by utilizing the high compute powers and the different technical advantages that are out there, scalable and flexible for their environments. They need to have them. Yeah. And of course, new regulatory legislation, it's coming out, it's driving the adoption of artificial intelligence and other areas where we look at the FDA's new regulatory guidance coming out and guidance for industry on software as a medical device using AI terminologies and AI technologies. This is all things that you need a lot of computing power to run that, and the cloud is really your best fit for those environments.
Yeah, as you know, Master Control has been servicing the life sciences industry primarily for the last 20 years of its existence. And we've definitely seen a shift in our customer base in moving to cloud technologies for a lot of the reasons that you've cited.
Right, it's a huge game changer. Yep. It really is. Yep. So today we want to talk a little bit about on-premise versus cloud security. If you're using an on-premise environment, what are some of the things and features that you really need to focus on? And when you move to cloud, how can cloud really help you within a security environment? So if we look at on-premise, you can see that security is handled by the IT staff, and your IT staff generally has a lot more to do than just check one server or one log file or one event log or make sure that one backup is happening the right way.
Yep.
Your IT staff is really that's been our experience with our customers. The IT staff is usually overloaded with daily activities as they are, and when we look at security features and managing and monitoring services, this just adds on to their daily workload.
Yep, definitely. I know here at Master Control, one of the advantages we have is we have entire teams of people that are focused on securing our application in the cloud. They know all the ins and outs. If there are any vulnerabilities, they know about those and are able to close those quickly.
Right.
Very different situation than an in-house IT staff, for example.
Of course. And when we look at it, when we look at our customers utilizing also Master Control software, from a development standpoint and from a software developer, you guys are doing an excellent job of making sure that the code that's provided to the clients is ready to go and everyone can utilize it. When we get down to the shop floor, that's where the cloud helps us to really secure our clients on the final mile, to make sure that anything that happens within the client's environment is really monitored 24/7 and has all the controls in place.
Yeah, that way you don't have a downtime event
Exactly.
out on the shop floor, for example. Yeah,
exactly. And this is something that we see when we look at cloud. Teaming up with cloud service providers who are skilled and have focuses on IT security. Any customer can benefit by just utilizing the economies of scale. If we look at a typical IT team, you would hire someone who's an expert in networking, you would hire an expert in backup, you would hire an expert in archiving, you'd hire an expert in security, and before you know it, any small site might need a 30 to 40 person team just to handle IT issues. And by utilizing cloud, you're using cloud providers who have the best in breed personnel already on site to really utilize economies of scale for clients.
Yeah, a 50-person company obviously can't support a 30-person IT team.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly.
We can support that because we're dealing with hundreds of 50-person companies.
That's correct.
So there is a huge advantage there.
That's correct. So the right architecture and, as we put in here, the right security really will help us to get assurance, data assurance, quality assurance, and cybersecurity assurance.
Yep.
So cloud, as we put it here, cloud is the safer choice when we look at putting all the components together. You have a robust environment, you have a scalable environment, you have up-to-date features. If we look at some of the major cloud vendors that are out there, and also who Master Control works with, there are new technology features and security features and updates coming out on a daily basis, and this is evolving at such a rate that it's very difficult for a 50-person team to conduct, and it's almost impossible for a 50,000-person company to keep up with. So we highly recommend moving to the cloud and utilizing an FDA-compliant cloud provider. Right? At least an FDA-aware cloud provider. Let's put it that way.
Somebody that knows what they're doing in the space.
Exactly. It's not really that we say that cloud providers are getting the stamp of approval, but they should know what is going on in the space, what is happening in a regulated environment, and how we can move forward with that. So that really helps us to enable a robust, safe, and scalable environment together with our customers. A few myths we want to talk about today, myths and fears of moving to the cloud. These are just some of the things that we see every day. So when we reach out to our customers and we go through a cloud journey setup and we go through our individual road shows to help out our customers on moving to the cloud, these are some of the things that we're faced with every day. One of the main questions is, how new is cloud? This has just come out. This is a new feature. It's completely immature. Everyone's moving to cloud. How can this be? And I believe Master Control, it's not new to Master Control.
Certainly not. No. If you think about what cloud is, really you're taking the servers that used to sit in hopefully something other than the janitor's closet in your office.
Oh, the broom closet.
Yes,
Exactly.
the broom closet server room. But you're taking that and you're putting it in somebody else's infrastructure. And for many, many years, private clouds have existed. So Master Control started offering its application in a private cloud environment way back in 2006.
Wow.
So we're coming up on 15 years now of dealing with cloud hosting technologies. It's really been more recently than the term cloud has come into use. But the technologies that underlie it have really been in play for a number of years now.
And they've really been available. They've matured very much in the last decade when we look at it. In reality is cloud technology, they don't have the luxury of not adapting. There's just so many clients, so many customers, so many users on cloud platforms that the exposure is so great and also like I said, the economies of scale is so great that it just allows for a focused update, a focused cycle, a focused feature add-on to really have additional security and have additional, more bang for your buck. That's really what you're getting when you're moving to a cloud provider. Looking at this, when we look at the capacity to put up data, to analyze data, to store data, data nowadays, you're collecting it in everything that you do. You're collecting it on your shop floor with temperature controls, checking your dust particles, making sure that your processes can run through in a streamlined fashion. We worked with one customer which looked at bringing together their operational technology and their information technology in their production processes. And just running through one production process, they actually collect over 1 million data points.
It's incredible.
And this is a lot of data. This is a lot of data that's being collected, and of course that needs to be analyzed in order to create a business value. Because we don't just want to have data to store terabytes and terabytes of data. We need the data in order to drive business values, in order to drive business decisions, and see what can we grow into, and what maybe we want to change in the organization. Also, when we look at cloud-based systems, we want to make sure that employees have timely and controlled access to environments. We're no longer talking about a standard storage area or a standard install at a local site. We're talking about keeping information available worldwide. So if in the case of a natural disaster, you might lose a server room. You might lose access to an ISP in one site. But if you're looking at a global organization, the organization will continue. It will continue to be able to be used, and the platforms will be able to be utilized.
The redundancy is much, much better in a cloud environment.
Definitely. The system availability, the system redundancy, having the data available when you need it, where you need it, and when you need it. And this is a 24/7 setup that can be done utilizing a cloud. And really, it's the most convenient, least expensive way to meet those needs. If just looking at economies of scale, they are really, really great on getting the most bang for the buck. Okay, a little bit of data, a little bit of numbers that we have here. So one of the surveys that was conducted in 2014 revealed that just looking at healthcare facilities moving to the cloud, 73.4% of the healthcare facilities are already utilizing cloud technology, and this is anything from a registration system or a healthcare information system or even patient information systems that are collecting data and that are kept in a cloud-based environment. And this is not something that we want to keep lightly or there's a lot of security involved. There's a lot of patient safety involved. There's a lot of data privacy involved. But this is even back in 2014. And
we're talking 5 years ago at this point.
So I mean, it's really made it such a huge jump in technology and advancement and in availability from vendors, software vendors who focus on these areas, also to utilizing this information in any facility that's necessary worldwide.
Sure. Yep.
Most companies here are using it for business operations. They want to make sure you can have high value business operations running at a low cost, at the most efficient cost that's out there to keep your critical applications up and running.
Absolutely.
Another statistic that we have here in 2017, we actually saw that 90% of all enterprises, so not only healthcare enterprises, but all enterprises are utilizing cloud in some part of their business. So just like we use it every day in many things that we do, just utilizing our smartphones is utilizing a lot of cloud applications on our daily basis. 90% of companies, and this again was a few years ago, are utilizing cloud somewhat in their business technologies.
Yeah. Going back to kind of our opening point there, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody not using cloud technologies
That's absolutely
today.
correct.
So, yeah.
That's absolutely correct. And 66% of manufacturing enterprises are utilizing cloud implementations as well, from the same study that we have. So that was really the first myth, saying cloud is immature. It's something new. It's not new.
Yeah.
It's not immature. It's being monitored. It's being set up. It's being certified. There are certification bodies, assessment bodies, and other areas that are making sure that the cloud experience can be the most secure experience that a customer can have. And this brings us to myth number 2. If it's in the cloud, it's easily accessible. It's great. Thank you for putting everything in one place. So now I can just steal it all. Steal it all in one area, right? And we really want to address this point, about hackers and governments and nation states trying to steal and basically get access to information. The first thing is, in a security posture, it's always the weakest link. Right? There is no 100% data security. It doesn't exist if it's on site, if it's on premise, or if it's in the cloud. Security is always based on the weakest link principle. And when we look at this, if we keep items in a secure cloud facility, if we keep it in a secure location, we're already taking away a lot of the issues. From a security posture. We're taking a lot of the weakest links away. In the example that you said in the broom closet, keeping a server room there, you may have environmental conditions that may access your security weakest link. A server room might get too hot, it might get too cold, it might rain, or maybe a flood. And it's not just about data security in the sense of my confidentiality of my data, but also my availability of my data.
Certainly,
We really want to make sure that services are available, data is available, and the business can flow even in the event of a natural disaster that may happen.
Well, and sadly, often the weakest link is us, people.
Definitely.
It's inadvertently exposing data or introducing, malware, viruses, things of that nature. That becomes more difficult to do when you've got your application and your data sitting in a cloud environment that is probably thousands of miles away from your facility.
That's right.
So you kind of eliminate that whole piece with folks unknowingly.
Accidentally sticking in, putting in a USB drive that has something in there. Where you're accidentally introducing a code or malware into your system because of a physical access, and you're completely taking that away by utilizing a cloud provider and going into a secured facility. So really, another big thing that you have within the cybersecurity realm of cloud providers is it's something it's monitored 24/7. And when we look at the cloud providers nowadays, not only is it monitored with a manpower 24/7, but there's a lot of automation behind it. There's a lot of automation within the security features. There's a lot of automation within the security tools and the add-ons that you can actually have to minimize the risk of human error as much as possible, and of course analyze and see and get a full-time or full readiness of information that's out there, right? You want to be able to have it in real time to see when things are being attacked, or if someone's trying to access your data who shouldn't be doing that. And back to the smaller organizations that we have. Few organizations have the time to actually dedicate a person to that. Dedicate a person to look. A lot of the times when we work with our customers, it's the experience that it's not that the system didn't notice that someone was trying to access the data, or there was not, the event log was written. It was just the human interface to actually review the event logs, to pull the insight from the data that was provided. And this is something that, utilizing cloud providers, there's a lot of tools and a lot of automation that goes into that to show the insights, to basically help to guide the decisions on which areas are potentially under attack.
The alerts or things that bring it to people's attention. If you've got one, maybe two guys that are responsible for reviewing security threats in IT versus maybe 15 or 20, like a SaaS provider would have. Your likelihood of picking those up is much, much lower.
Right. And then, so with a cloud provider, not only are you getting it where a team will pick it up, but you'll also have automation within there that they'll even stop the attack from happening.
Or self-healing.
Stopping the network access, stopping the attacking access, and making sure that your system itself will continue. And that, in the result, is when we're looking at cybersecurity nowadays, it's not about a server link, or it's not about only a denial of service attack. What we're talking about is we want to make sure that the service continues, the delivery service. When we look in master control, it has a vital role in an organization's processes, and a vital role in the business process. So this is a service also that it just needs to be there. It needs to work, it needs to be available, and we need to know that we can rely on that. And going into a cloud environment, we can all sleep better at night knowing that service is available.
It's not just the security, it's also the durability of the environment. Can it stay up and available for long periods of time without any downtime? So that brings us to myth number 3, which is always a point that we get within our customer base. If I move to the cloud, I'm sharing my data with everyone. If I'm in the cloud, I'm always in a multi-tenant environment. There's always someone else's data that could be read by me, or they can see my data. The reality, however, is completely different. When we look at today's technology, especially utilized in cloud environments, it's about authorizations and access controls. And when we put authorization and access controls together in a cloud-based environment, it's basically like a border control. And we're really making sure that each client can have a fully isolated data resource that is only available to them. So there is still the need to have authorization programs and authorization configurations put in place, but this is also something that happens during the installation and configuration of master control. In fact, the way that we've architected our product, James, is that we use both logical and physical separation. So the chance of a company's data commingling with another tenant on the system is virtually non-existent.
Exactly. So it's really, with the cloud-based environment, you have a high level of security to make sure that you have access to your data and that no one else has access to that data. And in a cloud-based environment, there are really vendors that run incident responses and simulations to make sure that intrusion detection can be reviewed to really assure that no one else can have access to that data.
I know when our customers sometimes will want to set up pen testing or ethical hacking, things of that nature. If they don't let us know beforehand, we'll shut them down before they even get going.
And that's
the way it should work, right?
That's exactly how it should work. Great. So the fourth myth that we have here is really about storing data on your own server keeps it safe from intruders. There's a great picture on LinkedIn that I always like to refer back to when I talk about this myth. It's a picture of a server rack that has a sign on it that says, "In case of hacking, please pull the cables and break the glass." And this is just the reality of it nowadays. You're not going to keep your data secure by keeping it under your desk or keeping it in your janitor's room closet. And you're just not going to keep it secure even if it's in your own data center. Keeping cybersecurity up and running, when we look at the amount of hacks that are out there, the amount of attempted attacks, and the amount of intrusion that is constantly ongoing around the world 24/7, you really need to make sure that you have a team in place who can handle that.
Yep.
You really want to make sure that you have a team in place that can handle cybersecurity response, cybersecurity effectiveness, and make sure that everything will work out smoothly. The reality is, when we look at a lot of server environments and we look at data kept on a local server, the IT personnel that usually work for small to mid-sized operations, they're busy doing day-to-day business, making sure that the services can continue to run, making sure that the business services are running, making sure that the right applications are up and are available for the system usage. A lot of times we see IT teams really focused on a firewall-based structure. We see this with our customers, that the outer wall is utilizing a firewall, and inside we have a very soft marshmallow-like gooey type of exposure, which means if anyone can manage to get through that first firewall, the internal structure is completely exposed to security risks. And this is something that when we go to a cloud-based provider, we actually have defense in depth models that are implemented, that are put together, and that are fully customized to make sure that we can have systems in place and control systems and automated controls in place to make sure that the data is always available and is confidential and is secure.
Yeah, to your point of that kind of hard outer layer, I was at a cybersecurity conference last year. There was a gentleman from the FBI there speaking about cybersecurity and events that they see. He said that on average, a bad actor is in your system for 270 days, I think it was. So it's been almost a year before you even know that somebody is messing around inside there.
Right.
Because they're in that soft, gooey layer, like you described it.
Exactly. And if you imagine 270 days, you could actually download a lot of very critical information in a matter of minutes. And if you could just imagine how much a person would have in almost a year on value of data and on sensitive information. That's something that you want to make sure if you go to when you go to a cloud provider, you can actually set up and configure the fully automated controls to make sure that your defense in depth is in place. So cloud security technology is significantly different from what is used on-premise environments. This is one of the main things that we see on cloud security provision. When we look at basic or on-premise systems, it's usually a firewall. It's something that's mounted in a rack. It could be a software-based system that's installed on another server running with other applications that are out there. When we look at cloud-based systems, a lot of it is brought down to a code level. We can really see components such as infrastructure as a code, a lot of new technologies going out there, and we've even seen clients using different container security, so really container level security running in their cloud-based environment. And this is a technological advancement that is really helping out the industry assure their high availability and assure that they have a security down to the application level.
And those are things that are constantly evolving too. As a SaaS vendor, as we see those evolutions occur, we're able to incorporate those into our own software coding practices, the architecture of our system, so that we're certain we always have the latest and greatest technology to prevent intrusion and attack.
Definitely. Great. So the cloud is equivalent to placing your data in a secure vault around the clock. security surveillance, right? I mean, that's really what we want to make sure that's happening. And when we look at keeping your data central or keeping your data in a local on-premise environment, if we look at the cloud as a security vault, if we say this is your high-end security vault of where you're keeping your data, keeping it in your own server room, it's kind of like keeping it under your mattress. So the last myth that we want to talk about is cloud service providers don't understand the data management and security needs of a regulated company. So this is a point that we get every single time that we're talking with our clients, and they say, you know, which cloud provider should I be using? Do they all understand regulated industries? I could tell you, no, they don't. Not all cloud providers understand regulated industries, but the two largest ones being AWS and Microsoft, and they are great on understanding regulated companies and regulated industries. Really, when we look at the reality of it, especially working in Germany, we focus on the GDPR, on the EU data protection regulations and the privacy of data privacy of personal data. And when we look into GDPR, a lot of companies are faced with, how do I become GDPR compliant? What must I do to be GDPR compliant? And how do I stay GDPR compliant? One example in the GDPR compliances is, where is the data kept? How is the data kept at rest? How is the data kept in transit? Do I have encryptions? Do I have different levels of authority? And what is my real business need to move the data to another location? When we look at Microsoft and we look at AWS in their platform environments, they actually have not only different places where you can keep the data, but they actually have very specific availability zones where they say you can keep data in a specific city or in a region, or also in a specific country, if you would like to have that. And this is really a big point to help with GDPR compliance.
Yeah. It's been a big step forward for us, James, with our European customers, for example, to be able to select those availability zones. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more here.
We are.
But knowing that their data is, stays in a certain country, it's really important with the GDPR compliance.
Definitely. And this is only one of many, many points to enable GDPR compliance. But the reason I always bring up the two largest cloud providers is they publish white papers, they publish checklists, they publish guidelines on how to become GDPR compliant and how to stay GDPR compliant. And this is information that they want to provide because they want to work with the regulated industries. So in the end, the cloud itself, it's not a threat to compliance. It actually makes it a lot easier. Bringing things to a cloud-based provider who knows the regulatory requirements, who understands what needs to be done, that's your step at an infrastructure level. And of course, working with a software provider who understands what regulatory requirements are, it's just going to help your business process achieve a much higher value.
Yep, definitely. I mean, we've been working in the life sciences industry now for over 25 years. And understanding the kinds of regulations that our clients must adhere to really allows us to do some things that help them in their compliance quest. I was just talking to a customer recently, and they asked me, well, do you guys audit AWS as part of your supplier qualification? And I said, well, it's kind of hard to audit Amazon, but what they do is they make all of the documentation available in public forms. It's easy to consume. We're able to package that and present it to clients in a way that they're able to deal with their supplier qualification requirements.
Exactly. We see the same thing when we work with our clients and our customers. They always ask, how will I do the supplier qualification for this particular supplier within my infrastructure? How do I do my design of my infrastructure, and how do I do my infrastructure qualification? And with AWS, it's quite simple. If you're a customer of AWS, you can download the third-party audit reports. You can download the third-party certifications. They make it publicly available to customers, and I know that also together with Master Control, you offer clients for their cloud-based installations a lot of the qualification information right off the bat. Great. So one of the things we were talking about were availability zones, and cloud service providers really have availability zones in specific regions. When we look at it, I believe in Europe, you're actually utilizing the EMEA availability zone in Frankfurt, Germany.
We are indeed.
And this is just a great location. When we look at it, it's not just one server area, it's not just one data center, but really what the cloud providers have put together within the different availability zones is they literally have 3 or 4 or 5 data centers in one city, in different locations where the data can be replicated to and can be held at a very high availability.
Yeah, the redundancy is critical in how much uptime your system has.
Exactly.
So spreading that risk out over multiple data centers becomes very important.
Definitely. And not only is it by the regional area, that's really a high level point, but also because you can keep the data centers in geographical locations. You can say, I would like to have my data in North America or in my European region or also in my APAC region, in very specific areas to make sure that latency is not an issue.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so in the end, migrating to the cloud, if we want to migrate your operations to the cloud, it's really the best way to strengthen your cybersecurity posture, become more resilient to security events, and just make sure that your overall security controls can be utilized at a really good economies of scale. So, to migrate your operations to the cloud, it's really laying the fundamental way so that you can increase your security posture and you can really become more resilient to security events. There's a lot of great benefits, making sure that you can utilize the economies of scale of having a dedicated security team, having a dedicated IT team, and having dedicated resources available, which are running 24/7 to make sure that you can have this high level of availability and security within there.
Yeah, totally agree.
Now there is one point that we always do get asked about, especially when we're in Europe or outside of the U.S. It's about the U.S. Cloud Act. So the U.S. Cloud Act was enacted in 2018 to basically speed up access to get access to electronic information held by U.S. and other global providers. So when we look at data hosted in Europe, data is usually going to be hosted by one of 3 major vendors. It's going to be Microsoft, Amazon, or Google within the cloud space. And all 3 of these vendors are US-based corporations. In theory, that would mean that data is subject to the US Cloud Act. Now, in generally, all data can be subject to the US Cloud Act, regardless of if it's a US cloud provider or not a US cloud provider. But we always do get a few questions on the US Cloud Act, because does that mean that the US can have access to data controlled by companies across the globe? Absolutely not. So that's the first point. There are a lot of caveats and a lot of regulatory processes in place before data is actually interchanged throughout countries. There are bilateral agreements in place. There are very clear local laws and legislations in place before data is actually exchanged. So the local laws actually have precedence over the U.S. Cloud Act.
Gotcha.
And this is something that can be read on AWS's webpage. They actually have a very good FAQ on the U.S. Cloud Act. IGG actually published a wonderful white paper on understanding the U.S. Cloud Act, as well as Microsoft. They all have great resources to learn more about that and to see that. So in Europe, we inform our customers of this, obviously, but it's not a threat to their business or to their data structures.
It's not unlike extradition.
Correct.
Yeah, basically there are a lot of hoops that have to be jumped through before the data would just be released.
Exactly. And then a question that we always get, how does this affect GDPR compliance? Does the U.S. Cloud Act contradict GDPR in the European Union? Not at all. Not at all. So these are two very important legislations that are out there, the U.S. Cloud Act as well as the GDPR compliance regulations within Europe. However, they should be seen as two separate entities.
Okay.
So the key takeaways for today's session, we wanted to highlight here. Cloud computing is really helping to increase the value of patient safety and patient security through applications that could be done nowadays using artificial intelligence. If we see some of the areas coming out of the medical device field even utilizes software as a medical device, we can see some great advances happening, and those require a lot of compute power. And there's one place that you can go to get a lot of data storage and a lot of compute power, and that is by utilizing the cloud.
Yeah, really without the cloud, AI isn't much of a reality at all.
That's correct.
So.
And cloud environments are more secure than on-premise infrastructures. They allow us to utilize much more sophisticated and much more security technologies involving 24/7 monitoring, making sure that we have dedicated teams and dedicated resources to utilize it.
Yeah, so that mattress isn't very appealing, is it?
Not at all, not at all. And when we look at multi-tenant installations, the isolations are becoming much more advanced, making sure that everyone's data stays the same. Everyone's data stays for themselves.
Yep.
And data in the cloud is really more secure than in-house servers, because really cloud uses multiple layers of security. We have dedicated teams within the cloud making sure that this data stays where it should go, and making sure that you can have encryption in transit, data encryption at rest, and many other technological advances that are very hard to realize for an individual site.
Yeah, when I talk to a lot of our customers about this, I ask them if they have the world's experts in securing master control on staff. Well, clearly the answer to that is no, because those experts are here at Master Control. And it just gives them one more point of comfort as to what we can do versus their own internal IT staff in securing their data on the cloud.
It's really, it comes down to economies of scale, making sure you have the right personnel who have the right knowledge at your fingertips. So we're going to move on to our question and answer session and take a few questions from the audience. And we would really like to reach out and thank everyone for attending today. And it was a great session.
Yeah, James, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you spending the time with us here at Master Control.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, well, thank you, Matt and James, for that insightful presentation. We've now reached the question and answer portion of our webinar. For those of you who've been sending in your questions over the course of the webinar, if we do not get to those today, our presenters will follow up with you individually after the webinar. Okay, looks like we have our first question. Many users are using their own devices to access systems and data from remote locations. How can security be assured under these circumstances? Matt, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, I'd love to grab that one. So bring your own device is something that we see more and more often in industry today. I mean, it's almost the norm. One of the nice things with putting applications up in the cloud is the strong authentication protocols that can be put in place to prevent unwanted access of systems. I mean, you look at Master Control, for example, we leverage a technology called Okta that enables multi-factor authentication and all the things that you would want to see to prevent unauthorized access. And then kind of the other piece of that is in the cloud, you can leverage what are called application performance monitoring tools, APMs, and those will show you, almost instantly when you're seeing abnormal behavior, and we can shut that down before it ever becomes a problem and somebody gains access to your system.
Okay, our next question. How can you best secure data for transportation to the cloud? James, would you like to take that one?
One of the main things we want to look for when we're looking at data transportation to the cloud is making sure it's encrypted, encrypted in transit and encrypted at rest. These are two of the main things that we want to make sure of when we have the data transfer. Looking at the cloud providers in place, looking at the server infrastructures that are in place, we can actually assure that together with master control for the environment.
Excellent. Thank you. Looks like we have another question. With so many users interacting in the same cloud environment, how are cloud service providers able to pinpoint and prevent unauthorized access or malicious activity without disrupting the productivity of legitimate users?
Yeah, James, I'd be happy to grab that one if you want. It's a lot like the mobile computing one, that unauthorized access piece. Yeah, again, there are technologies available to us in the cloud that really allow us to prevent that kind of a situation from ever happening. Going back to the application performance monitoring tools, things like denial of service attacks, where people are hitting the server very, very rapidly. We can see that. We've got alerts. We have machine learning algorithms that can pick up on those things. Again, just really shut it down before it ever becomes a problem.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, here's another question. Where is my data going to be saved? James, I'm going to kick that one to you.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. When looking at the software as a service solution providing that we have in place, the data is going to be served in the cloud data center, but this really depends on the region where you're actually located. If you're in the US, it will be saved in a US data center. If you're working within Europe, it'll be saved in the Germany data center to make sure that it's GDPR compliant.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next question. What kind of test is the best option when infrastructure changes?
James, based on your background, I think that one's probably better for you to take.
The best option that we have for testing when infrastructure changes is really regression testing. We want to make sure that the production infrastructure works as it previously did and make sure that all of our core functionalities are in place. So in case we do have something that happens on a major infrastructure change, one will be notified, we'll get the automatic updates from the service provider, and then we can easily run a very quick and easy regression test focusing on the most critical functions.
All right, well, we have a question regarding data storage. The requirements for data integrity have specific guidelines for data storage and security. How can we meet these guidelines when our data is in the cloud? Matt, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I can grab that one. So when you look at data retention and data integrity, you've got both a short-term and a long-term situation. You have situations where maybe something goes haywire and you need to roll back maybe just a couple hours or a day, or you have disaster recovery type situations where you need to pull back a lot of data from a long period of time. SaaS vendors like Master Control, we have technologies, policies, procedures for both of these types of things. We, as a vendor that's providing a solution in the cloud, we frequently test this. We have to be sure that we're able to bring a customer's site back up in a very short period of time so that we don't impact their business operations.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, our next question. Do the major cloud providers allow customer on-site audits? James, let's have you take that one.
Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Looking at security reasons, public cloud providers such as Microsoft or AWS don't provide direct access from customers with the ability to perform the on-site audits. What they do, however, is they work together with the industries, especially life science industry and medical device industry, to give out third-party regulated audit reports. So the information that you would get by getting an on-site audit is made available to customers, especially through the right channels of Microsoft and AWS.
Good. All right, and another question on multi-layered security. Can you explain the multiple layers of security in a cloud environment?
Yeah, I can grab that one if you want, Jennifer. So within cloud computing, you've got to worry about different parts of security. There are different layers within the application itself, as well as the infrastructure that underpins the application. Unlike kind of in the old days when everything sat on a server that was on your facility, might have been in a broom closet or something, once somebody was inside of there, they could pretty much do whatever they wanted. Once they've gained access and made it past that firewall, they're basically acting like one of your internal people. I was at a security seminar a couple of years ago where an FBI agent said that a bad actor on average is in your system for 270 days before you even know it. That they can do a lot of damage in that time frame. In the cloud, you've got a very different situation. A lot of times we use what is called zero trust security protocols. So even if they do make it past a first layer of security, there are 9 more that they've got to get over before they can actually do something inside the system. Some specific things that we do as a cloud provider and SaaS vendor, we do both physical and logical separation of data. So you can't have 2 companies that get their data mixed up, for example, or somebody unauthorized accessing a neighboring company's data. You've got procedures and technology in place to protect data both at rest and in transit. So again, somebody comes in, they're not able to crack a database, for example, or they aren't able to intercept data as it's being transferred either within the cloud infrastructure or from cloud infrastructure to the endpoint where the user is accessing it. Again, I'll hit on strong authentication, just a lot better technology around authentication that you can access in the cloud. And then, your typical kind of IT measures around network and application security, hardening, all of that is taking place as well.
It looks like we have come to the end of our hour today. I would like to thank Matt and James for joining us and sharing their expertise. If you entered a question that we were not able to address today, our presenters will follow up with you directly. As a reminder, the 3rd webinar in the series will take place on March 11th, and we will be discussing validation in the cloud.